Hello and welcome to the viewers of this video. This is the Orange Fan here, bringing you another entry for the episode Recap and Thoughts category. This video will be dedicated to the B segment of episode 21 of The Loud House, Raw Deal. We begin this segment with the Loud family on their way to Grand Venture State Park. It's a trip they've been planning for months now, and Lincoln in particular is very excited for what they're going to do at the park. Although one of the attractions there, a geyser, apparently hasn't gone off in such a very long time, so that might be something they won't be able to experience, or they worry they won't be able to witness it go off. In the hopes of passing the time as they make their way to their destination, Lucy offers to read the fortunes of her siblings based on her fortune-telling cards. Lisa's the only one who doesn't really believe in the fortune-telling, or she's not very enthusiastic about it. Although Lucy's fortune for Lisa indicates that Lisa will make a great scientific discovery before she sets foot in Grand Venture State Park. Lincoln's the last one to have his fortune told, but Lucy regretfully tells Lincoln that his day at the park will end in tragedy, which leads Lincoln to become very fearful. They stop at a gas station to, refuel Vanzilla, but also to acquire some necessary items as well. And while they're there, all of the siblings, except for Lisa and Lincoln, have their fortunes come true in some capacity. Lisa just passes it off as coincidence, a case of exact words, and other similar situations. But Lincoln is still a bit worried about the track record so far. But since Lisa's fortune hasn't apparently come true yet, Lincoln's hopeful that maybe there's a chance he'll be able to avoid this great tragedy that was foretold. They finally arrive at the park, and while Lincoln tries to get all of his sisters into the park so that Lisa won't make a discovery before entering it, Lisa took her time getting in there, and before she sets foot in the park, a big egg just pops down out of nowhere, and out comes an owl with deer antlers. And Lisa finds this to be a great scientific discovery, which leads Lincoln to fear that his fortune is bound to happen. Now, throughout the course of the segment, we see the Loud family having fun activities at the park, except Lincoln, who's paranoid and fearful about this tragedy that's supposed to happen. While this is going on, Lisa also talks with the park ranger, who bears a strong resemblance to Ranger Smith of Yogi Bear fame, about this hybrid creature, which Lisa dubs the Dowel. By the end of the trip's almost over now after we see these activities and Lincoln's fears, and Lincoln's anxious to leave the park before any more chance of a tragedy might happen. But the family insists on staying so Lisa can Lisa can reveal the Dowel for this press conference that appeared for this great discovery. But when Lisa reveals the Dowel to the press, the deer antlers fall off the owl, and apparently there's a made in China inscription on it, or it's written on the antlers. And Lisa pieces together that the park ranger was up to something, and he confesses that he bought the deer antlers, the fake deer antlers, and put them in the owl, and set up the situation where the big egg dropped down and hatched. And his hope was to garner more tourists to the park, since barely anyone visits the park because the geyser hasn't gone off in so long. Lincoln seeing Lisa's discovery was not a true scientific discovery leads him to realize that the tragedy was a self-fulfilling prophecy, Lincoln had a miserable time at the park because of his fear of something would happen. And so Lincoln's bummed out about this, and he says that he shouldn't have lived his life in fear or else he'd never be able to enjoy it. But then suddenly he hears something, and he goes to check it out, and Lincoln actually sees the geyser go off for the first time in a long time, and it's a great spectacle for Lincoln. After a quick scare where it looks like his family's leaving him behind, he manages to get in the van and he tries to explain the discovery to the rest of the family, but they apparently didn't see it. And Lenny mistakes the geyser for a geezer, because Pop, geezer, and Grandpa. And Lincoln, though, thinks that it ended up being a good day because he got to see the geyser. And then we have the part where Lisa likes to say that Lucy's fortunes were wrong, but Lucy says she has one more card to prove that the fortune telling was real. She said the end is near. Lisa is in the middle of a rant about how it's ridiculous, but then she gets cut off mid-sentence and we get a title card with the dowel and it says the end, and it ends with Lucy saying "told ya" to Lisa. Now, this segment, a lot of people were not particularly fond of the segment because of Lincoln's fears throughout it and how his day ended up being ruined because of a self-fulfilling prophecy. And I can sympathize with that. I mean, I can understand people felt bad for Lincoln for going through that. But at the same time, the segment did end with Lincoln being the only one of his family who actually got to see the geyser erupt. So some think, though, whether that was enough to save the segment, or if people thought it wasn't enough to salvage it, that's been a big debate among individuals. As for myself, I guess this one might be more middle of the road for me. I don't dislike the segment. I don't have as much of a resentment towards it as some other people do. But at the same time, I did feel there were better segments. And yeah, I did feel bad for Lincoln, but I also was glad that he was able to see the geyser go off. That was kind of a nice moment to let Lincoln have a victory. And actually, that's the tricky part with the segments for episode 21. Yeah, a lot of people weren't too fond of either of episode 21's segments, whether it was The Loudest Yard or Raw Deal. Like, I don't know which one I would favor more than the other. I mean, they kind of were just... yeah, I guess they just weren't... yeah, they weren't ones that I outright disliked, but I still did enjoy other segments better, so really I guess it would be more indifference for me than anything else, I suppose. Well, with that covered, we've now discussed both segments of episode 21 on this channel in any case. Take care, and until next time.